The air above the Blackwater still shimmered with fading heat, and smoke clung to the river like a morning veil long after the last wildfire barrel had burned itself into green oblivion. Dawn bled over the eastern sky, staining the torn banners atop the red keep a sullen vermilion, and the sea wind carried the sour-sweet stench of charred pitch, singed flesh, and the faint copper tang of spilt blood. From the ramparts, one might have imagined kings landing breathing, drawing in ruin, exhaling dread. Yet the city lay stunned into an eerie, expectant hush. Only the rasp of boots upon stone broke that silence, a marching cadence that echoed through the gate of the gods and up the hill of Aegon where dragons once loomed. Stannis Baratheon rode at the head of his column, a dark stag emblazoned upon a field of fiery yellow snapping above him, though the embroidered crown around the creature's antlers had come away in battle somewhere on the southern shore. The lack suited him. He wore no circlet himself, only the battered steel of a commander who had hacked a path to the very doors of the Red Keep. Soot streaked his cheeks, but his eyes, pale, unyielding, strangely calm, surveyed every broken cart, every blood-slicked cobble. Justice, he thought, demanded witness. Justice demanded more. To Stannis's right ambled Ser Davos Seaworth, helm tucked beneath one arm, the other palm flexing numbly where 4 fingers ended in healed stumps. The Onion Knight said nothing, but his gaze flicked between burning roof beams and the pale faces of small folk peering from narrow alleys. Here and there a woman clutched a child close. A rag-clad man knelt, pressing his brow to the dirt road as the host of the rightful king passed. Davos felt the weight of those stares like a silent plea. Mend what was broken, my lord. Bring order. Bring mercy. Yet he knew too well how flint-hard Stannis's mercy could prove. At the foot of Aegon's high hill, a knot of Lannister spearmen awaited, armor tarnished, crimson cloaks flecked black where sparks had eaten through the silk. Their captain, helm under his arm, knelt and extended an ivory-handled sword in surrender. "King Joffrey is dead," he said with cracked lips. "The Queen Regent bids your grace hear her terms." Stannis reined in, lifted one gauntlet hand, and the column halted behind him. Horses snorted, mail jingled. He leaned forward, expression unreadable. "Terms," the word scraped like iron across stone. "Cersei of House Lannister sits upon my throne, spills my subjects' blood, breeds bastards to usurp my rights, and she speaks of terms?" The captain's Adam's apple bobbed. "She remains within Maegor's holdfast with Lord Tyrell's host encamped nearby." Tyrell. A spark of something close to grim amusement lit Stannis's eyes. Ser Mace and his perfumed whelps fled the field when the tide turned. If they return, they will find the city sealed. He glanced at Lord Alistair Florent, who rode just behind. "Secure every gate. No man leaves King's Landing without my writ." Florent spurred forward with a curt nod, banners swirling. Stannis dismounted, handed the reins to a squire, and started up the hill on foot, Davos matching his stride. Blackened stones crunched beneath their sabotants. The Red Keep loomed, its once proud towers now gouged and pitted, one turret lopsided where siege mangonels had found their mark. Yet Maegor's holdfast remained stubbornly whole, squat and defiant at the very heart of the palace compound. Inside the keep's throne room, Lannister gold had smeared into streaks of crimson across the marble floor. Broken shields lay scattered like discarded scales. The Iron Throne itself, jagged, towering, merciless, gleamed in the half-light as though newly forged. Stannis' steps rang upon the tiles, echoing upward into the vaulted gloom. For a breath he paused before the throne. But justice first, he reminded himself. The seat was nothing without the law restored. A scattering of captives waited near the dais, Maester Pycelle trembling so hard his rings tinkled. A bruised Ser Osmond Kettleblack, stripped of helm and sword. Lord Varys, immaculate save for the dust on his slippers, eyes soft with practiced sorrow. They knelt as Stannis passed, though Varys's head lifted just enough to study the new king with feline curiosity. "Where is she?" Stannis demanded. "Maegor's holdfast," Varys murmured, "guarded by the remnants of the Kingsguard and a score of red-cloaked loyalists. Her grace fears for her children." Stannis' stare cut the eunuch to the bone. Her children are dead, one by her own hand, others by poisoned lineage. He pivoted to Davos. Bring torches. We will smoke the lioness from her den. Moonrise found Stannis' men encircling Maegor's holdfast. Flaming brands licked the night, casting leaping shadows across the high curtain walls. A single narrow bridge spanned the deep dry moat, a spine of pale stone now spattered with green wildfire residue where Tyrion Lannister's alchemists had once planned their last defense. Across that causeway stood Ser Lancel Lannister, face pallid beneath fresh bandages, white cloak torn but clutched about his shoulders as though dignity could halt an army. "My Lord Stannis," Lancel called, breath fogging the chill air. "The Queen bids me parley. She wishes safe conduct from the city, ships for herself, Lord Tommen, and her household. In exchange, the crown's treasury will pass intact to your custody." Stannis stood at the bridgehead, torchlight flickering against steel. Behind him Davos spoke low, reminding him of hostages, of negotiation, of precedents set by Baelor the Blessed when he spared the last Blackfires. Stannis listened, but his face remained carved from granite. "Tell the Queen Regent," he answered at length, voice carrying clean and cold across the moat, "that treason earns no ships. Renounce her claim, submit to trial, confess, and mercy may find her." A murmur of alarm rose from within the holdfast. Lancel paled further. "My lord, she will never. Then she will burn." Stannis raised a hand. Archers knocked arrows wrapped in oily cloth. The Queen's reply came swift as panic. A lone bell's clang twisted into the night, and the thick oaken doors creaked open. From the darkness emerged Cersei Lannister, hair unkempt yet still a sheet of tarnished gold around her proud features. She wore a simple gown of black velvet, the crimson half-lion brooch at her throat the sole flourish of color. In her arms she carried 6-year-old Tommen, face blotched with tears. Clutching Ser pounced the cat to his breast. Cersei crossed the bridge with measured steps, shadows writhing beneath her like serpents. When she stood before Stannis, she looked not at him but to the blazing torches, to the ring of mailed men whose eyes glinted with victory, to the iron throne silhouetted beyond the courtyard gates. Her lips curved, not in supplication, but in something dangerously akin to amusement. "So the usurper's brother comes at last," she said, voice low. "The gods grant me strange company tonight." Stannis motioned, and Davos took Tommen gently from her arms, leading the boy away. Cersei watched, something raw flickering in her eyes before the mask descended. Then she turned to Stannis, finally meeting his gaze. "I stand accused," she said. "Speak the charge." "Treason," he replied. "Adultery, usurpation, murder of His Grace King Robert Baratheon, murder of Lord Jon Arryn by conspiracy, unjust war upon the realm, and the forging of bastards to claim the throne." Cersei smiled, teeth glinting white. "Show me a king that bleeds for one of bastards. Robert had his brothels, his black-haired swill. Is treason a queen's duty and not a king's pleasure?" She stepped closer, so near he smelled the wine on her breath. "But you, Stannis, righteous Stannis, have never sinned, have you? No whore's babe to claim. Only this grim charade of honor that leaves you hollow as an iron crown." Stannis's jaw flexed, yet his voice did not rise. "I have sinned enough to know sin when I see it." He lifted a gauntlet fist. "Guards, take her." Chains clinked as 2 knights seized Cersei's arms. She did not struggle, though her gaze found the high battlements where gargoyles leered over the courtyard. "Do it quickly," she whispered. "A lioness does not beg." "No," Stannis said, turning away. "Justice must be seen. At sunrise." That night the Red Keep smoldered with rumor. Small folk whispered that the Queen still had sorcery at her call. Some swore they saw shadows gliding along the walls, shadows with a woman's shape and a tail of flickering fire. Within the Tower of the Hand, Tyrion Lannister lay upon a pallet, half delirious from the axe wound that had shorn his face, when Varys's soft hands pressed a damp cloth to his brow. "They mean to execute her, my lord," the spider murmured, voice hushed as incense. "Come dawn in the Dragon Pit Square, The new king seeks a public lesson. Tyrion's laugh turned to a rasping cough. Public lessons are my sister's favorite wines. She may finally taste her own. Yet a queen's death seldom ends a war. It spawns a dozen more. Varys's eyes gleamed. Storm's End stands shaken, but Casterly Rock still towers. Lord Tywin will not let his daughter die unavenged. Tyrion closed his eyes, picturing his father's army wheeling like a red tide across the reach. Then the realm will drown because men cannot stomach mercy. Mercy, Varys echoed. And who shall teach Stannis mercy? When sunrise spilled gold across the yards, drums beat a slow dirge. A scaffold had been raised before the gaping doors of the dragon pit. Once a grand vault for Targaryen terror, now a carcass of shattered domes and crumbling pillars. Crowds gathered, the boldest pressing close, others hovering at alley mouths as if the very act of witnessing might condemn them. Above, banners of the crowned stag snapped, though gusts tore at their frayed edges. Cersei ascended the platform with regal poise, wrists manacled, hair loose about her shoulders. A hush rippled outward as she turned to face the multitude. Sunlight struck her eyes, and for an instant she seemed a marble carving, beautiful, pitiless, eternal. Stannis stepped forward beside the executioner, a broad-shouldered Myrish sellsword sworn the night before. In his hands gleamed an executioner's sword newly honed, its edge catching dawnfire with lethal promise. "Cersei of House Lannister," Stannis intoned, voice ringing across the square. "You have been found guilty of high treason and all attendant crimes. May the gods have mercy upon your soul, for the law of men shall have none." Cersei lifted her chin. "I will name no gods," she said, loud enough for all to hear. "They deserted this nest of vipers long ago." Her gaze swept the throng until it found a cluster of women clutching babes, their cheeks salt-streaked. A strange softness stole across her features, fond memory or pity, or the final unmasking of everything she had never allowed herself. Then she smiled once more, brilliant and terrible. "Do it," she whispered. The sword rose, glinting, and every breath in the dragon pit caught in a single silence that seemed to stretch into forever. Yet in that heartbeat between sentence and steel, memories stirred. Robert's heavy laugh in the throne room, sweet Myrcella chasing kittens through the maiden vault, Joffrey's spiteful grin over a crossbow, Tommen's chubby fingers grasping hers in the sceptry. A life writ in blood and pride and fear. Cersei closed her eyes and felt the world turn scarlet. Some swore the sword fell true and swift. Others claimed Stannis hesitated a shade too long, that flame guttered in the brazier, that a shadow passed across his stern features and his eyes darkened, as though doubt had pierced the mailed ramparts of his resolve. But the blade did fall, and the queen's head rolled to the scaffold planks, gold hair splayed like molten coins across weathered wood. A collective gasp burst from the crowd, followed by a hush deeper than any cloister. Blood trickled in a narrow rivulet, bright against rough timber, and the small folk stared at death, at vengeance, at the proof that power could bleed. Stannis surveyed the faces before him. Fear, wonder, loathing, relief. A king's subjects. He raised his voice once more. "Let it be known. Here ends the tyranny of false kings and vile councils. Henceforth the realm shall be ruled by justice and the king's law, unmarred by favoritism or deceit. The Iron Throne belongs to the rightful heir, and the realm shall know order." Distant bells tolled, slow and mournful. Davos watched, heart leaden, as Lannister crimson pooled beneath Stannis's black boots. He thought of the small folk who had begged mercy, of the prisoner's final smile, and wondered what price the realm must yet pay for justice served so cold. And within Maegor's holdfast, young Tommen Baratheon, no bastard now but a royal hostage, sobbed into Ser Pounce's fur, the echoes of drums and bells seeping through arrow-slit windows to curl around his terror like a winter wind. Night fell again upon King's Landing, quiet save for the crackle of pyres consuming the last of the siege dead along the mud gate. A lone raven took flight from the tallest spire, message tube bound to its leg, wings buffeting the perfumed air toward the sunset, west to Casterly Rock. In the Tower of the Hand, Tyrion laboriously set quill to parchment, the letters wobbling where his swollen fingers refused their old grace. He wrote of justice and vengeance and the thin line between them, of a sister's final defiance and a king whose crown weighed heavier with every stroke of his sword. When he finished, he sanded the ink, sealed the scroll with wax, and handed it to Podrick Payne. "To my father," he said, "ride hard. Tell him the lioness is dead, but her cub yet lives, under a stag's antler." Pod bowed, eyes wide. He turned to leave, but Tyrion caught his sleeve. "And tell Lord Tywin something else," the dwarf murmured, voice hoarse. "Tell him the realm has forgotten what mercy looks like." As the door closed behind Podrick, Tyrion lay back, staring at the cracked ceiling beams, and listened to the distant roar of the crowd still ringing in the streets below, part grief, part triumph, part hungry anticipation of more blood yet to come. King's Landing had always devoured kings and queens alike. Today it had feasted well. Tomorrow it would hunger again. In the black hours before dawn, Stannis knelt within the Sept of Baelor, now stripped of all idols save the rough-hewn hearts of the seven that lay toppled in shards about the floor. Smoke from torch tapestries curled overhead, snaking toward the cracked dome where stars peered through. Melisandre stood behind him, crimson robes whispering, her ruby shining with living fire. "You have brought light to darkness, your grace," she said, voice warm as embers. "Azor Ahai walks the earth reborn." Stannis' shoulders sagged, the weight of crownless rulership pressing down. "I have brought justice," he said. "If the realm will not bend to law, I will break it to fit." Melisandre's shadow stretched long across the shattered floor. "The night is long and full of terrors yet," she whispered. "But tonight they fear you." Stannis closed his eyes, and for a fleeting moment he saw Cersei's smile, felt the whisper of the sword in his hands, the warm spray of blood across his gauntlet. Then the vision faded, leaving only the cold stone beneath his knees and the echo of bells tolling for a queen who would never bend. Westward, across fields scorched by summer drought, Lord Tywin Lannister's host advanced, 40,000 men, bronze armor gleaming beneath banners of crimson and gold. The Raven found him at dawn atop a rise overlooking the Mander, and when he broke the seal, he read the words without change of expression. His eyes narrowed, his jaw tightened, but he uttered no outcry. Instead, he folded the parchment, slid it into his sleeve, and turned to Ser Kevan. "Send riders to every bannerman," he said. "Double the march. We make for King's Landing at once." Kevan glanced at the sunrise. "The men are weary, brother. A forced march will cost us strength, perhaps half our horses." Tywin mounted before Kevan finished, golden armor blazing. "Then let them ride until the last mount collapses beneath them," he said, voice colder than a winter night in the mountains of the moon. "My daughter lies unburied beneath a usurper's sky. We will answer blood with blood." The riders scattered like sparks upon dry grass, and from the ridge the Lion of Casterly Rock loosed a silent roar that seemed to tremble through every blade of withered grain, bound for a city already slick with crimson promise. And somewhere among the broken streets of Flea Bottom, a boy no older than 10 knelt beside a gutter where wildfire residue glimmered faintly under moonlight. He dipped 2 fingers into the greenish muck, smeared a sigil upon a cracked wall, a crude crown inside a circle of flames. Then he smiled, eyes shining with fierce, dangerous hope. "King Stannis," he whispered, "King of Justice." Across the city, torches guttered as night winds shifted, carrying the scent of ash, of burned flesh, of new-forged destiny. The dragon skulls beneath the red keep dreamed again of fire. The gods old and new weighed hearts unseen, and the Iron Throne waited, patient, razor-edged, hungry, for the next supplicant to bleed upon its blades. The Game of Thrones had never ended. It had merely found a harsher player. Smoke still drifted like ghostly serpents above the shattered spires when the city gates clanged shut behind Lord Tywin's outriders. Even at this distance, Tywin could taste the bitterness of wildfire in every breath, feel its grit grind between his teeth. He allowed none of that distaste to reach his visage. The host must see only iron calm and a single-minded will to reclaim all that smoke had stolen. Columns rattled over the Rose Road, banners streaming red gold in dawn's first glare, and the thunder of 40,000 hooves shook dust from drought-browned willow leaves. Somewhere amid that rising haze a carrion crow wheeled, tilting black wings to mark the army's crawl across the riverlands, portent or promise. Lions did not heed carrion birds, yet Tywin's pale eyes tracked its spiral till it vanished against the sun. A league behind, Ser Kevin conferred with the baggage masters, ordering wagons to abandon dead mules, redistribute grain, burn half the tents. None would matter if King's Landing were lost before they arrived. Speed weighed more than comfort. Men grumbled but obeyed. Kevin returned to Tywin's side with fresh dust caking his beard, and the older lion noted it without comment. The Rock's debts to grief would be paid not in tears but in ruin. Tywin's mind measured distance, supply, rumor. Scouts spoke of Stannis' banners flying unopposed from the White Sword Tower, of the Onion Knight rewarded with Storm's End, of the Queen's head displayed in the Dragon Pit Square. If the city still reeled, it might yet fall to a swift, brutal strike. But wildfire caches could remain, and Stannis had Davos's fleet inside Blackwater Bay. Rashness invited green hell. Tywin chose the narrow thread. Strike fast enough that Stannis could not entrench, careful enough that the city would still stand for Lannisters to reclaim. As his horse crested a gentle ridge, a rider pounded from the van, cloak whipping. Lord Tywin, bird from Old Town. The faith militant calls a council at the starry September. They name the Queen's execution sacrilege. Tywin's mouth thinned to a razor slash. The pardon militant orders mattered less than sparrows, yet zealots ade tinder of any injustice. Flames of piety could lure reachlords to safer banners. He waved dismissal. Carry on. Send ravens to the high towers. Assure them the Iron Throne remains bound to the faith, and offenders will answer for each broken vow. If the words lacked sincerity, parchment could not blush. He glanced east, where the morning light painted the King's Road a silver knife piercing distant hills. Cersei's image rose unbidden. Gold hair haloed by sun, smile sword-sharp even in death. For an instant, Tywin's perpetual composure cracked, grief surging like hot wine. Then the mask returned, forged of decades ruling a house that could not afford tenderness. The lioness lay slain. The pride must roar louder. Within the Red Keep, bells tolled for the 4th time since dawn. Less for the Queen Regent's passing than for the thousands still unburied along the city walls. From the Tower of the Hand, Tyrion heard every mournful note pulse through stone like a heartbeat he could not silence. Maester Franken fussed over the bandage stitched to his cheek, clucking that the wound must stay dry or rot would set. Tyrion barely listened. Each gong seemed a hammer driving home the fact of Cersei's absence. Every chamber where her temper once flared felt suddenly vaster, echoes lingering where her voice used to whip like a lash. Podrick returned at noon, boots muddy from the stable-yard. "The raven flies, my lord. They say Lord Baelish landed at Cracklaw Point 2 days past, escorting Lady Sansa south with a marriage pact for Ser Loras." Tyrion barked a laugh that hurt his shattered jaw. Littlefinger dragging Stark trophies again. A slower vulture no doubt picked Stannis' bones even now. He struggled upright, cursing the fog of milk of the poppy. "Fetch paper. We shall pen a welcome. The king commands Peter Baelish to assume his rightful post. Groom of the rubble." Pod hesitated. "The king? You mean King Stannis?" "I mean whichever boy sits safe behind Stannis' shields." Tyrion's tone softened at Pod's wince. "Tommen remains, though crownless, and a crownless Tommen is still the gentlest sheepdog ever set among wolves." He limped to the window, gaze tracking Josmond Peckledon drilling new gold and black guardsmen in the courtyard. "Stannis may wield justice, but justice makes for cold milk. Small folk crave bread, and someone to blame should the loaf burn." Across the hall, Shay sat silent, eyes red-rimmed from watching half the city drag corpses to the firemage's pyres. Tyrion gestured her forward. "Pack what you can carry. We will not stay for the next siege." Shay's chin lifted, soft mouth fierce. "And go where?" To your father's camp. To anywhere my father isn't. Tyrion swallowed the taste of ash. The Vale, perhaps. Or Lys, plenty of coin left for now. And leave your brother's child? She meant Tommen. Her voice trembled with pity. Tommen has Ser Davos to teach him virtue. Tyrion's lips twisted. He will starve of sweets, but he will live. A knock interrupted. Varys slid inside like a pastel shadow, hands folded. My lords, a gift. 2 spearmen hauled in a heavy chest of black oak. Its iron bands bore fresh scorch marks. Dragon fire. Tyrion eyed it warily. Merely a relic dredged from the Blackwater's silt. Varys unlatched the lid. Inside lay a golden circlet wrought with stag antler points. King Robert's coronet. The ferryman who found it hoped to barter for amnesty. I suggested a better coin. Information. He produced a parchment. Lord Selwyn of Tarth raises ships. Stormlords mutter that Stannis' justice will demand their own trespasses be judged. Fear is a delicate spice. Tyrion lifted the crown, weighing memories of drunken laughter and hunting horns and a foster father who had loved ale more than heirs. A dead king's circle of metal, he mused. Plant this on Stannis' brow and see if it fits better. He tossed it back. It clanked against the oak. Varys did not flinch. There is also word from Dragonstone. Ser Alistair Florent hires Sellswords, paying with casks of reach wine. The Tyrells will not abide their vineyards financing their enemy. Highgarden sharpens its shears. Then we have shears, axes, and wildfire residue enough to torch the realm thrice over, Tyrion muttered. A fine garden we tend. Varys inclined his head. Gardens grow or burn by cautious hands. If Lord Tywin arrives while Stannis' throne still reeks of Lannister blood, he will not pause to parley. But if a conciliatory envoy met him, someone scarred yet unbowed, bearing news of Montfort's grain fleet seized in Stannis' name, perhaps swords might be sheathed. Tyrion caught the eunuch's meaning. You would send me to treat with my father. You understand his mind. He does not trust Davos, nor Florent, nor the Red Woman whose fires kindle nightmares among knights who once served Renly. Varys' smile wilted. Too many swords, Lord Tyrion, and too few hearts left beating if they cross at once. The dwarf rubbed his bandaged cheek, considering how many words he could shape before pain silenced him. I will think on it. His eyes shifted to the black oak chest. Have the crown delivered to Tommen. Let the boy polish it. Steel may not bend him, but gold might remind Stannis that mercy has value. Varys bowed, satin slippers whispering away. 2 levels below the royal apartments, Tommen Baratheon sat at a stool too tall for him, feet dangling above rush-strewn floors. The chamber had once served as Queen Riella's solar centuries earlier, though now only cracked frescoes of pale dragons remained on its walls. Ser Davos crouched opposite, a weathered deck of Stormlander kings in his hand. See here, your highness. He arranged 5 ivory tiles in line. 5 lords swear loyalty. Massey, Follard, Errol, Grandison, Penrose. But if Penrose grows proud and forgets his vows, how many remain true? Tommen frowned, blue eyes earnest. 4. Aye. Yet if 2 others follow Penrose, you're left with but 2. Davos toppled 3 tiles. The last pair quivered. A kingdom is strong only so long as each man stands beside his brothers. Betray one vow and the rest may fall. Tommen nodded, solemn. Like stacking books too high, he reached out, steadying the last tile. Mother said kings must make allies, not friends. Davos's mouth twitched. Friends can be allies, lad, if you choose wisely. Footsteps approached. Melisandre swept in, red silk pooling. At her throat, the ruby pulsed with inner fire. Heartbeat or candle, Davos stiffened. Every instinct prickled around the Shadowbinder. She inclined her head toward the boy. Your lessons proceed, Ser Davos? He learns quick, Davos answered, gathering tiles. Melisandre's gaze fixed on Tommen. The night devours innocents who clutch false lights. She extended a hand. The ruby flared, washing their faces in crimson. Do you know the tale of the false dragons? Tommen swallowed. No, my lady. In the east, men forged dragons of bronze, feeding them coal so they roared smoke. They crowned themselves dragon lords. Yet when true fire came, their metal beasts melted. Only those who served the Lord of Light endured the torrent. She knelt, her voice honey-soft. Your mother clung to shadow gods and paid for their silence. Serve the light, and shadows shall never claim you. Davos closed his fist around the tiles, fingernails biting skin. The boy serves the realm, he muttered. And the law. Melisandre stood, Ruby's glow subsiding. The law is a net of mortal threads. Fire is the loom. She drifted away, leaving a hush that breathed like cooling steel. Tommen glanced at Davos. Was she saying I need fire? Davos forced a smile. All you need, lad, is truth, and truth burns bright enough. Beyond the city walls, Stannis reviewed reports at a makeshift council convened in the ruined Dragon Gate granary. Lord Alistair Florent unrolled parchment lists of grain stores requisitioned from the Riverlands, while Salladhor Saan lounged on a cask, complaining of rats nibbling his silks. Maester Pylus read dispatches. Raven spoke of Casterly Rock mustering, Highgarden scorned, Dorne silent behind their red mountains. Each scrap of ink painted the same grim mural, storm clouds converging from every horizon. Stannis listened, fingers steepled, until the maester finished. Lord Tywin will strike within a fortnight, he concluded. Our scouts ride from the Trident. His banners cover the King's Road from moat to valley. Fortnight, Salladhor scoffed. If the old lion whips his men as he whips his mules, he arrives in 10 days. Stannis's gaze cut to him. How many ships remain battle-ready? 30 of my own, 20 Riverlander cogs, a dozen sell-sail tugboats patched with pitch. The Lysine shrugged. Enough to burn what remains of the Blackwater's docks, perhaps deny Tywin a landing, if the wind favors us. Burning my own harbor will not win the realm, Stannis said. We must meet him upon the field. Lord Bryce Caron leaned on the council table. March the garrison out before his host coalesces? Our knights can strike the vanguard while sell-sails harry their baggage. Too risky, Lord Estermont argued. Hold the city's walls. Tywin's host will starve in the charred fields he sows. Stannis's eyes narrowed. Walls or field, each choice meant thousands dead. He pictured Cersei's head rolling on planks, the crowd's gasp, Davos's quiet sorrow. Justice demanded firmness, yet the realm bled already. He turned to Davos, who stood silent at the rear. What say you, old friend? Davos stepped forward, weathered face grim. Fight where we know the ground, your grace. The Blackwater burned once. Its banks remain scarred, bridges weakened. Lure Tywin across, cut him off, trap him between river and walls. Like Aegon at the Field of Fire, Florent mused. Without dragons, Salladhor added dryly. Stannis rose. We have zeal enough. His voice rang across the granary's vault. Tomorrow at first light, we march a third of our force south along the river. Lord Valerion will ferry archers to the south bank. Hold the ford. Our main host will fortify the causeway. When Tywin approaches, we collapse the bridge behind his van. The sea will hem his retreat. Florent exhaled uncertainty. And the Queen's pyromancers? Their stores may yet lie hidden. Let them burn lions instead of stags. Stannis dismissed counsel. Ready the men. Davos lingered as others dispersed. He approached, voice low. If Lord Tywin breaches the walls, King's Landing will suffer slaughter. We must safeguard the small folk. Stannis's jaw tightened. I safeguard the realm. The realm is people, not castles. Davos met his gaze. Leave Tommen with the mother house on Visenya's hill. Evacuate the refugee camps to the Sept. Neutral ground even lions hesitate to breach. Stannis's expression hardened like frost, but he nodded. See it done. Davos bowed. That night, torchlight flickered against the broken domes of the dragon pit as fires consumed siege timber repurposed for warm hearths. Refugees clustered close, sharing bowls of barley water laced with smoked eel. Mothers hummed lullabies under breathless skies. Above them, Maegor's holdfast loomed like a dark fist, windows glowing sporadically. Whispers rippled. Some prayed to the Seven, others to Lawler, still others to the stranger to claim them quickly should the battle reach this hill. Yet hope, stubborn, threadbare, lingered where children chased each other between toppled statues. Amid that fragile sanctuary walked Sandor Clegane, helm tucked beneath his arm. He had slipped into the city 2 nights past, drawn by half-formed memories of a little bird and her songs. Now he roamed ruined streets like a dog sniffing for masterless bones. The hound paused as a barefoot girl offered him a crust, mistaking his towering shadow for hunger not habit. He took it, muttering thanks he hardly felt, and glanced where the distant sept lanterns glowed. Too many prayers in that place. Too much fire. He tossed the bread to a mongrel and trudged toward the stables. Horses did not preach. Far to the west, at the bridge of the Mummers Ford, Lord Davin Lannister watched the vanguard ford the tumbling waters. He loved the thrill of weighty hoofs splashing, loved the fierceness of banners rippling over sunrise. Yet he feared the hush that followed, the waiting. He turned to Ser Adam Marbrand. If Stannis destroys the bridge, we trap ourselves.
Marbrand lo grand bright.
We rebuild on broken men. He tapped his sword hilt. The mad axeman rides in our van, 20 score reavers beside. One charge breaks Selsail levies and onion knights alike. Davin eyed the river. Its banks had widened since last he crossed. Too much rain upriver, or the gods themselves fattening the flow. He thought of King's Landing's green fires and shuddered. Back inside the Red Keep, Tommen lay asleep beneath a woolen mantle stitched with stags. Davos stood watch despite 2 burly Stormlanders posted outside. He gazed at the lad's cherubic face, remembering his own sons. Mathos proud upon the Black Betha's deck, Dale laughing as he carved toy mermen, Merrick's awkward grin when first he kissed a girl. Smoke swallowed them all, but memory knelt stubborn. He bowed his head. Another father's boy rested in his charge now. A soft scrape sounded. Davos spun, hand on dagger. The door eased open. Varys glided inside, finger to lips. Only a whisper, sir. The eunuch crossed to the bed, laying a small parcel beside the sleeping prince. A gift to soothe nightmares, honeycombs from the reach. His eyes lingered on Tommen with something like tenderness. Davos stepped between. You spy on children now? Children one day rule, Varys murmured, and rulers break when too many shadows press. He glanced to the window, where torchlight flickered across courtyard stones. The realm grows darker, Ser Davos. I have seen kings ignite civil wars for less than a severed queen. We must spare Tommen that burden. Davos studied him. Spare him? Or use him? Varys's smile faltered. Sometimes, Ser, the narrow path of survival and the broader road of manipulation share the same stones. He inclined his head. Protect him, and perhaps he will protect us all. Then he vanished through the door, ghosting down halls that remembered whispers better than thunder. Dawn painted the Blackwater a murky bronze as Stannis' host trudged along its northern bank. Hoofs churned dry mud into clods, and siege towers rattled where they stood half disassembled to patch ramparts. Archers strung ashwood bows, testing new linen strings. Overhead, gulls screamed. The men smelled rain in the humid hush, though no cloud yet darkened sky. Davos rode beside Stannis at the column's head, his borrowed helm's visor raised for air. Ahead rose the stone bridge, a graceful arch of pale limestone crossing a narrow neck where Blackwater Rush met the Honeywine stream. Mathematicus said the arch could bear 4 wains abreast. Davos cared only that its keystone seemed cracked where Wildfire's heat had licked months earlier. Engineers had propped it with timber braces. Now carpenters hammered fresh wedges, their mallets' rhythm echoing hillside to hillside. Stannis halted the van. Collapse those braces on my command, he told Lord Estermont. The moment Tywin commits half his strength, break the span. Estermont saluted. We'll need men stationed beneath to fire the timbers. I will supply them, Melisandre said, arriving astride a sand steed clad in scarlet caparison. Light falls where I bid it. Davos's stomach clenched. Your fires burn too hot, my lady. A spark too soon and we strand our own men. The Lord of Light guides my hand. She fixed him with glowing eyes. He looked away. Stannis observed their tension, but spoke only one word: hold. He stared toward the west, as if he could pierce leagues of woodland by will alone. He comes. Tywin's army emerged from the Ashford Hills like a river of quicksilver. Helms caught noon sun that set fields ablaze with miniature dawns. Dust shrouded the vanguard, obscuring banners until scarlet tips breached and the lion roared upon gold. Trumpets blared. Outriders spread into skirmish lines, shields raised against stray arrows. Behind marched spear regiments of the Westerlands, their mail shirts shimmering. Farther back rumbled columns of armored wagons bearing scorpions and trebuchet parts dismantled for the road, each axle groaning. Tywin rode beneath the standard of the hand, a golden lion grasping a crimson hand. He eyed the distant bridge, too small against the horizon but the only ford wide enough to convey baggage quickly. Men's lives would hinge on those pale stones. He signaled to Ser Gregor Clegane. The mountain spurred forward, visor down, mace dripping with the blood of a stag banner captured at Bitterbridge 2 days prior. Take 100 heavy horse, Tywin ordered. Probe the bridge. If it holds, cross and secure the far bank. Gregor's laugh boomed across the line. I'll ride through those painted crabs and shatter their shells. He wheeled away, selecting men who craved carnage more than coin. Tywin watched them gallop, a dust plume trailing. He lifted a brass lunette to eye, studying timber braces beneath the arch flammable. He muttered, "They mean to burn us midstream." He turned to Marbrand. "Tell Lord Brax to detach sappers. Bring ropes, grappling hooks, ladders. We anchor a pontoon downstream and escape should that arch fall." Marbrand galloped. Tywin's mind tallied contingencies like a ledger. If bridge fails, deploy reserve across pontoon. If archers harry crossing, silence with scorpions from south bank. If Selsail fleet emerges, unleash wildfire casks assembled under Euron Greyjoy's design. Raided from captured pyromancer vaults. Every variable accounted but one. How long before the city itself rose in revolt behind Stannis? He clasped a sealed scroll in his breastplate. Letters promising pardon and gold to any gate captain who flung open portcullis at the lion's roar. Fear cut chains quicker than swords. Thunder rolled.
Tywin glans d'esquiguard, no Stormbrud.
The sound came from across the rush, drums pounding a slow cadence atop King's Landing's ramparts. Black and yellow banners lifted, crowned stag rampant. A hush fell among Lannisport levies. Many had watched their queen parade beneath that crown not half a year ago. Now it flew for her killer. Tywin's gaze hardened. Justice did not leave corpses to rule. He raised his gauntlet fist. Advance. The mountain's wedge thundered down the incline, hooves drumming earth. Shields locked, lances couched. They hit the bridge approach at full gallop. From the opposite bank, Stormlander bowmen loosed. Shafts hissed like angry bees. Men toppled, horses screamed, but the wedge crashed on. Gregor drove at the center, mace pulverizing a spearman who dared stand. Blood sprayed. The first timber brace splintered under his destrier's weight. Dust rose so thick archers missed their mark. Across the bridge, Ser Richard Horp signaled Selsward crossbowmen. A volley snapped. Quarrels pinged off heavy plate, but one bolt lodged in Gregor's visor slit. He roared, snapping the shaft, and swung his mace in a two-handed arc that caved Horp's helm. Stag banners faltered. From the northern bank, Melisandre raised both arms. The ruby flashed. "Ashes," she whispered. A lit torch arced through the air, striking the oiled brace midway beneath the arch fire blossomed, licking timber that hissed sap into steam. Carpenters scattered. Flames rushed upward, crackling across pitch-soaked beams. Within heartbeats, the brace sagged. Stone groaned like something awakening. Gregor felt vibration before he saw cracks spider across limestone. He cursed, wheeled his mount. Behind, Half his cavalry still pressed forward. Escape clogged the narrow span. "Back!" he roared, voice dwarfing even the flames. Men panicked, horses reared. The arch lurched. On the southern bank, Tywin watched, expression unreadable. He signaled Marbrand. Trumpets blared. Crossbow companies advanced, loosing at archers who manned northern breastworks. Scorpions clacked, hurling iron bolts the thickness of arms. One struck Melisandre's horse, pinning beast and rider to ground. Firelight danced in her ruby as she slid free, robes aflame yet untouched. The arch buckled. Stone chunks sheared away, plunging into frothing water. Gregor spurred hard. His destrier launched across a widening fissure, landing amid broken stones. 50 riders behind him were not so lucky. When the keystone split, the bridge collapsed in a roar louder than wildfire's song. Men and mounts tumbled into swirling current, armor dragging them under. Flames hissed out, replaced by white spray. On the northern shore, archers cheered. Stannis himself rode forward, cloak whipping. He raised his sword, voice carrying, "Hold! Form pike wall along the bank. Let them bleed in the river." Davos exhaled relief, and then caught sight of Melisandre. She stood amid debris, eyes blazing at Gregor scrambling onto the bank. Flames danced unnatural bright along the tips of her fingers. A shadow writhed behind her. No, not behind. Within the flicker of fire itself, as though it birthed a shape. Davos shivered. Memories of Storm's End's dread litany clawed his spine. Stannis rode to her. His sword lowered, but fury laced his words. "I ordered braces fired, not sorcery unleashed." Melisandre bowed slightly, smoke curling from her sleeves. "The Lord of Light aids his chosen. We have split our foe, and slaughtered hostages of Casterly Rock," Davos muttered. Stannis ignored the protest. "Ready the men. Tywin will not falter. He will rage." On the southern bank, chaos reigned. Gregor bellowed, rallying survivors. Marbrand rode up, helm dented. "The bridge is lost, but their riverbank is narrow. We can ferry men around by raft." He gestured upstream where sappers hammered stakes to anchor pontoons. Tywin assessed. Half the vans stranded north of the river, half south. He could not risk piecemeal assault. "Artillery forward," he barked. "Bring up the scorpions, fire on their pike wall. Archers, smother that bank. If they force us to swim, we give them corpses for stepping stones." Ser Kevin rode from the reserve. Lord Brax reports Cell ships moving upriver, volleying fire arrows at the raft crews. Tywin's lips thinned. "So be it. Loose the wildfire casks." Kevin hesitated. "Within winds, carry sparks across." Tywin's glare cut him. "Obey." Signal flags snapped. For trebuchets wheeled into position, each cradle cradling a clay sphere painted green with alchemist sigils. Torches touched fuses. Fuse ropes hissed. Arms swung. Spheres arced high, trailing smoke. The first smashed among cell cogs, shattering decks. Emerald fire erupted, gorging on tar and canvas. Explosions rippled upriver as shields of pitch and wind fanned tongues of jade. Sailors screamed, leaping into waters that boiled. On the northern bank, Davos watched in horror. Flames spread atop river's surface, carried by currents toward the pike line. "Back!" he shouted. Pike captains understood. Ranks shuffled, but the bank offered scant room. Water burned where oil slicks met spark. Men cried as clothes ignited. Stannis kicked his destrier through retreating infantry, sword raised. "Buckets!" he roared. "Throw earth, not water." Yet wildfire mocked reason. Water only widened the blaze. Melisandre stood at vantage, arms outstretched, ruby pulsing like a heartbeat. The heat swirled her scarlet skirts yet did not lick her flesh. Across the river, Tywin saw her silhouette haloed in emerald. A chill crept along his spine despite sun. Men called such women abomination. Tywin called them leverage. He turned to Marbrand. "Put a bounty on the Fire Witch. 1,000 dragons to the man who brings me her head." As midday blazed, the battle stalemated. The river a fiery moat, the city walls behind Stannis bristling with archers, the south bank braced by scorpions spitting spite. From the ruins of the bridge sprang shouts of wounded drowning, their armor dragging them into shadows beneath green flames. Yet armies could not remain idle. Hunger, thirst, fear gnawed sharper than swords. In the lull, Davos found Stannis among pikemen stacking bodies to reinforce a makeshift dike against fire runoff. "Your Grace," he said hoarsely, throat raw from smoke, "we bleed for a river we no longer hold. Pull back behind the walls. Force Tywin to cross at another ford." Stannis shook his head, eyes like winter tidipools. Retreat invites pursuit. Pursuit invites panic. He wiped soot from brow. "We hold. The flames will die with nightfall. Then we strike. Men may die before dusk." Davos glanced at soldiers hacking mail from corpses to salvage steel. "They fear more than swords. The wildfire is demon's breath." Stannis's jaw clenched. "Fear is a leash. We must pull, not follow." He sheathed sword. "Hold the line. Send for maesters. Salve and vinegar for burns. The men need leaders who do not flinch." Davos bowed, though doubt weighed his spine. In Flea Bottom, rumors erupted like boils. Wildfire River, lions crossing walls, red witch summoning flames. Small folk shuttered hovel doors, hiding from both sides. Bread loaves soared to a stag and half a copper. Water sellers gouged thrice the price. Gangs prowled, looting empty manors of Lannister loyalists who had fled before sunrise. The Hound wandered this squalor, growling at beggars who seized his cloak. He considered fleeing the city by secret postern he once guarded, but each time he turned toward it, he pictured Sansa Stark's shy smile, her gentle thank you when he rescued her from rabble after Joffrey's whim. A man might run from fire, but he could not outrun ghost echoes. He spat, found a wine sink half standing, and drank till flames blurred. Across the bay, a black-hulled ship cut through smoke. The Kraken's daughter, Asha Greyjoy, surveyed the burning river with sharp grin. "Lion and stag gutting each other," she told her first mate. "No better time to take prizes." She ordered sails trimmed, steering toward warehouses still miraculously unburnt. Ironborn longboats slipped into shadowed coves, axes hungry for grain reserves. Sun dipped westward, and wildfire sputtered to lurid embers. Thick smoke cloaked banks, dampening aims. Stannis seized the moment. Trumpets blared. Spear companies surged onto ash-coated shore, slipping among charred beams of the fallen bridge, wading mid-thigh in blackened waters where flames hissed out. Shouts rose. Crossbow bolts rattled from scuffed shields. On the south bank, Tywin's infantry pressed forward to meet them. Blade met blade amid swirling fog. Men grappled, fell, drowned in knee-deep muck. Gregor Clegane carved a swath, mace-denting breastplates like tin. Across the melee, Lord Bryce Caron jabbed spear but into the mountain's knee seam. Gregor roared, swung, shattered the spear, but Caron dodged, slashing Gregor's horse belly. The destrier collapsed, thrashing. Gregor rolled clear, helm dented. He rose slower now, limp in step, though fury burned hotter. Melisandre watched from a broken parapet. She lifted a hand. The ruby's glow deepened. Flames flared along driftwood at Gregor's feet, licking up greaves. He stamped, paint-black smoke rising. Yet the fire clung. Hate twisted his visage. He barreled toward her. Archers loosed, quarrels pinging harmless off his plate. 10 paces, 5. He raised mace two-handed. Davos, sprinting to rally pikemen, saw the witch's peril. Without thought, he drew his dirk and hurled it. The blade spun, glinting in dying light, and struck the mountain's visor slit, nicking flesh above his eye. Gregor staggered, blinded by sudden blood. His swing veered, smashing stone spar inches from Melisandre's head. She stepped back, eyes blazing, lips moving in Valyrian prayer. Flames roared from broken torch stubs, engulfing Gregor's cloak. He bellowed, swatting sparks, stumbling backward toward riverbank. Davos reached her side, chest heaving. "Weary magic, my lady," he gasped. She turned, surprise flickering, perhaps gratitude. Then the ruby flared bright beyond bearing. Heat scorched Davos's cheek. Gregor, half aflame, plunged into water. Steam burst in ghosts. Across the field, Tywin saw his champion burning. Flicker, not fear, not sorrow, but calculation, crossed his stern face.
Esigneld ser Kevan.
Catapults forward. Launch grapples to drag that charlatan witch across. If the mountain failed, find other iron. Kevin kneeled, voice low. "Brother, our pikes tire. Darkness falls. Then we fight in darkness," Tywin snapped. But he glanced west. Sky bruised purple, and archers' fires dwindled. Night aided defenders. He inhaled. "Sound retreat to camp. We resume at dawn." Trumpets trilled 3 descending notes. Horns called across smoke. Westerland infantry disengaged in disciplined ranks, shields clashing. Stannis' men jeered but did not chase. Exhaustion pressed heavier than triumph. Campfires marked Tywin's bivouac 2 leagues south, flickering among oaks. In a crimson pavilion, the Lord of the Rock spooled maps across trestle. Ser Adam Marbrand detailed casualties. 1,000 drowned or burned, 2,000 wounded, half the baggage above river yet to cross. Tywin digested figures. "Tomorrow, we cross upstream at Windwater's Ford," he declared. "Brax's pontoons will ferry sappers. We flank their wall from the east." Marbrand frowned. "The ford is narrow marshland. Horse sinks to the girth. It will slow us and them. Stannis cannot guard every crossing." Tywin traced ridge lines on parchment. "Once across, we encircle Visenya's hill. Cut off water from the wells. Shell the September Stannis will choose between surrender or starving smallfolk. His hold on virtue unravels when children cry." Marbrand nodded, though unease shadowed his eyes. Tywin dismissed all but Kevin. Candlelight revealed deep grooves beside his brother's mouth. "I feel father's ghost," Kevin murmured. "When you plan such sieges," Tywin arranged map scrolls. "Father squandered the rock's coffers. I saved our house. His ghost may watch in silence." He stared at Kevin. "Tomorrow ends this. The realm cannot suffer a king who executes queens in the dragon pit." Kevin ventured. "And Tommen? Retrieve him unharmed. A living heir justifies our march." "And the witch?" Tywin's gaze slid toward the pavilion flap, as if he could see the ruby glow through night. "Head on a spike. Let the city learn the difference between King's law and devil's antics." Back inside King's Landing, Stannis convened council in the Queen's ballroom, its gilded chandeliers blackened from soot. Lord Valerion reported sell-sale losses. 5 cogs sunk, but Ironborn reavers looted warehouses. Alistair Florent argued for immediate sortie to reclaim grain. Davos countered, "Risk men for food stores we cannot guard? Better purge the casks and starve Tywin's siege." Voices rose, echoing off cracked marble. Melisandre stood silent until Stannis demanded her counsel. "The night brings visions," she said. "Light your sword again, and shadows will guide us to victory." Stannis's jaw tightened. "I wield steel, not sorcery. Lightbringer is forged of both." Her ruby pulsed. "I saw a lion consumed by fire, only bones left gnawed by crows. That was today. Tomorrow, I see a stag crowned, standing in ash and snow. But the vision clouds. 2 roads diverge, one in flame, one in blood." Davos glowered. "No more riddles. We need flesh and bread, not prophecy." Stannis raised a gauntlet hand for silence. "I will not falter in faith nor reason. We strengthen the walls, ration food, and prepare boiling oil. Davos, oversee rations. Lord Valerion, guard the bay's mouth. Sink Hulk ships to block Greyjoy raiders. Florent, send riders to the Reach. Offer pardon to any house who brings grain and bends knee." He looked toward Tommen's chambers above. "And keep the boys safe." As council dispersed, Stannis leaned wearily against a pillar. Melisandre lingered. "Your grace doubts," she whispered. I doubt men, he corrected. Fire behaves as fire. Men flare, gutter, betray. You have one who does not betray. She stepped closer, voice softer. Azor Ahai's path bleeds lonely. He met her ember gaze, remembering the feel of Cersei's blood spatter drying on his gauntlet. I do what must be done. Melisandre's fingers brushed his sleeve. Barely a touch, yet sparks seemed to race through cloth. Then let the night remember that. That night, Varys crept along forgotten passages behind the Hall of Lamps. He carried 2 scrolls sealed in black wax. One would fly by raven at first light to Sunspear, promising Princess Aerion freedom to trade in King's Landing if she backed the stag against the lion. The other he tucked into a secret niche beneath the floorboards of the small council chamber, to be discovered later by whichever victor sat that table, revealing the eunuch's prescience and usefulness. He paused, listening to distant bells toll midnight. Darkness cloaked all, yet in his mind he heard storms collide. Somewhere above, a boy king cried out in a dream. Somewhere beyond, a wolf dreamt beneath northern snows. Perhaps the realm could not be saved. Perhaps the wrong men shaped its fate. But Varys had survived kings and dragons equally. He would survive yet. As dawn's gray line edged the eastern sky, Tywin's trumpets sounded. The lion's host shifted, columns wheeling north toward Windwater's ford. Scouts rode ahead, banners half-furled. Across river and wall, Stannis' watchers blew horns in reply. Another day of blades had begun. In the sept-turned refuge, Tommen knelt beside burning candles. Septa Elise intoned prayers for peace. The boy's lips trembled, eyes shut tight. Outside, hoofs thundered, steel rang, voices roared. Tommen opened his eyes, whispering to the stranger statue, "Please, let them stop." But war's answer came in distant screams. On ramparts of the Red Keep, Davos drew breath tinged with ash and brine. He spotted Tywin's banners shifting east. "He changes crossing," he told Lord Valerion. Valerion nodded. "We match his move?" His gaze swept walls where men still bandaged burns from yesterday. Davos sighed. "We hold. Let the lions paws muddy in marsh." From the tower above, Melisandre stood with arms raised to the dawn. Flame light flickered behind her eyes. A low chant spilled from her lips, foreign yet familiar like heartbeat in womb. Shadows beneath the palace seemed to twist toward her, drawn by unseen winds. Within Stannis' war room, maps scattered, pins marking battery lines. As horns blared again, Stannis clenched the pommel of his sword, feeling ridges of stag antler carved into steel. He pictured Robert's drunken swagger, Renly's easy grin, Cersei's mocking smile. Ghosts urging him forward or holding him back. He shoved them aside. The living needed justice. He donned helm, strode toward the door. A page cried that Lord Tyrell's scouts camped at Bitterbridge, 5,000 strong and closing. Stannis paused only a heartbeat. "Then we defeat one army, then the next." He descended steps into roar of morning. The Battle of the Blackwater's second day dawned over a realm twisting on the blades of justice and vengeance, of flame and crown. Low in the harbor, Asha Greyjoy's longboats slid past burning hulks, eyes set on gold hidden in vaults beneath the city. In Flea Bottom, the Hound hefted an axe, hearing screams beyond and feeling something like purpose ignite. In the Sept, Tommen prayed, while outside its walls, soldiers hammered stakes to mark graves for men not yet dead. And atop Maegor's holdfast, the Iron Throne waited, its steel blades glinting red as sunrise, thirsting always for the blood of those who would claim it. The third dawn broke beneath a bruised sky, dull violet shading toward bruised gold above the spires of King's Landing. And in that sluggish light the Blackwater stank of drowned men, oil-slick ash, and the acrid tang of burnt lime poured across the dead. Crows swarmed in flapping clouds over what remained of the bridge, and wind carried their raucous screeches inland, where the battered hosts of stag and lion licked their wounds and prepared to draw fresh blood. Gray mist hugged the river flats. Through it marched columns of Westerland sappers dragging sledges of bundled reed mats, oak planks, and iron-shod stakes toward the marshy bend called Windwater's Ford. Tywin Lannister rode alone at the fore of that column, cloak snapping, every hoof-fall muffled in sodden earth. Night sessions in the command pavilion had scorched the nerves for most men, but sleep had never tempered the Lord of Casterly Rock. Red-rimmed eyes stared across the mist like two coins struck from the same gold mine that birthed his house. On the rise beyond the ford, the first ranks of his longbowmen were already planted, shafts angled skyward, waiting for shapes to stir on the opposite bank. Ser Adam Marbrand cantered to Tywin's side, helm plume slick with dew. "The scouts report no sign of Stannis's van here, my lord," Marbrand said. "Archers claim they saw fires on the King's Road north, either decoys or a withdrawal." "Stannis does not withdraw," Tywin muttered. "He coils. He is a trapper at heart." He studied the sprawl of reeds and shallow brown water, the willow copses that lined the river curve. A poor place for a clean engagement, yet perfect for ambush, arrows from tree lines, hidden ditches. Still, time pressed like a mailed fist. He turned. "Sound the drums. We cross." Rawhide mallets pounded kettle drums in steady cadence, and the sappers lurched forward, spreading reed mats upon the sucking mud. Engineers laid the first planks, then the second, until a crude causeway crawled into the marsh. Companies of shield men followed, boots splashing. Archers covered them, loosing into fog at any ripple or distant shout. Little answered, only the rustle of reeds and distant gulls crying in the dawn. Confidence rose. The bastards knew no one lay in wait. A half-league north, hidden in a hollow between two hillocks thick with blackberry scrub, Ser Courtenay Penrose watched from behind a wicker screen of woven branches. Beside him knelt 300 of Storm's End's finest longbowmen, mud smeared across cheeks and brows, green and brown cloaks blending into brush. Penrose lifted 2 fingers. Bowstrings sang. A single arrow took flight, arc shallow, falling with a hiss into dark water. A signal, no more. He exhaled, turning to a runner crouched near. "Go. Tell his grace the lion is taking the bait." The boy sped into the wood, feet whisper soft. In Maegor's holdfast, atop the battlements scarred black by wildfire smoke, Stannis Baratheon watched gulls wheel above the charred carcass of the broken bridge. Armor hung from his shoulders like the weight of 10 kingdoms. His face, unshaven, marked by violet circles at the eyes, held still the unyielding gaze and hollow dedication of a man whose veins pumped equal parts icy resolve and simmering rage. When the runner arrived, breathless, kneeling, Stannis barely nodded. He turned to Melisandre, ruby flickering against mist. "It is time." Melisandre's lips cracked in a smile, as though she heard a choir no other soul could know. "The night's shadow retreats. The dawn is yours." She reached out, touched the king's gauntlet. "Ooh, NLY fire brings dawn." Stannis jerked away, yet did not chastise her. He paced the parapet, peering toward the distant hills where, beneath fog, Davos Seaworth guided 3,000 spearmen and Selsward foot along a goat track that spilled into Tywin's right flank. The Onion Knight had argued against such feints, begged a more cautious defense of the walls. Still he obeyed. Loyalty and doubt locked wrestlers within his breast. Stannis knew, and he cherished that doubt. It reminded him that honor weighed heavier than faith, for men at least. Below, within the Red Keep yards, smiths quenched final spearheads, slapping helmets onto half-armored recruits. Dockworkers and carpenters given pikes scarcely taller than themselves. These levies would not join the flank attack. Their duty remained simpler: hold the city's southern gates and protect the September of Baelor, where thousands of small folk now huddled behind cracked marble colonnades, listening to the drone of Septon's weaving prayers into lullabies. Bread had run low, fear gnawed deeper. In the Queen's ballroom the night prior, Stannis had decreed that any man caught hoarding grain would forfeit a hand. Already 4 thieves nursed stumps doused in boiling tar. Word spread quick. Fear bred obedience, but also resentment simmering amid the cauldrons of soup so thin one saw the bottom of the pot. Justice required balance. Stannis tested the scales with every breath. On Visenya's hill, Asha Greyjoy's reavers had emptied 3 granaries and slipped back to their longship under patch-black veil. Dawn revealed smashed doors, slain guards, and barrels of wheat charred where those greedy for plunder had left torches toppling. The small folk cursed both kings alike, yet stole what grains remained in gutters, resorting to pestle and stone to grind and boil into bitter mash. The Hound saw the chaos and felt the city tilting toward madness. On impulse, he dragged 2 looters by the scruff and cuffed a septon for turning blind eye, then stalked east for cooler blood. None existed, only stench. At the ford, Tywin's vanguard advanced halfway across the improvised causeway when the marsh erupted. With a roar, hidden pits collapsed beneath heavy infantry. Wedges of sharpened stakes rose from beneath mats, skewering ankles, knees, groins. Men screamed, toppled into waist-deep mire. Arrows rained from scrub-covered hillocks, silent, sudden. Yellow-fletched shafts punched through chain and leather. Horns bleated too late. Marbrand flung his shield overhead, cursing, as one arrow slammed into the snout of his horse, sending the beast rearing. Engineers shouted to retreat, but the causeway narrowed, choked by thrashing wounded and toppled bundles. Tywin spurred his destrier to the riverbank, voice a whipcord snapping. Hold formation! Halberdiers pivoted, raising shields against the slashing arrow fall, while pikemen shoved wounded aside to keep lanes clear. Behind them, crossbowmen cranked winches, firing blindly into mist. But the hillock archers knew their ground. They struck, withdrew 2 steps, notched again, all but invisible beneath mottled cloaks. The disruption had cost precious time. Tywin ordered 2 companies across at once. Forced crossing, casualty be damned. Water churned as men slogged knee-deep, shields over heads. At the far bank, no infantry opposed them. Only a thin screen of mounted scouts who melted away at approach. The Lion reached the other shore, bloodied but intact. Trumpets blew for consolidation. The archers on the hill fell silent, vanishing into brush. From atop the Red Keep, Stannis noted the crossing with a grimace. "He commits," he said to Lord Valerion. "Signal Davos." A mirror flashed on a rogue sunbeam, 2 long strokes, 3 short. Far in the Goat Track Valley, Davos squinted, counted, then raised his own mirrored plate. Around him spearmen tightened straps. Many bore burns from the wildfire, bandages yellow beneath the mail, but they gripped shafts with quiet determination. Davos breathed a prayer to the Mother and ordered advance. They emerged just as Tywin's host formed wedge heading north along the inside crook of the river, intending to wheel and strike the gate of the gods. All at once, horns blared from the ridge, booming, echoing along gullies. Davos's spears poured into the open ground, standards lifting. A fiery heart with crowned stag. Tywin's eyes narrowed. "Rear guard, face about," Ser Flement Brax barked, but confusion spread. Columns still waiting swamp could not pivot. Strands of formation rippled like flawed tapestry. Davos slammed home, pikes set low. Shields crunched, screams rose. On right flank, Myrish Sellswords under Captain Cavo, the quill swept left, curved swords lopping through mail gaps. Davos pushed to break Tywin's line before heavier cavalry could rally. His infantry surged, momentum building like storm tide. But the Lion still roared. From the second column advanced Ser Adam Marbrand with 200 heavy lancers. They spurred through mud, lances lowered as crossbows behind peppered the Stormlanders. Davos barked to close ranks. The crash jarred bones. Pikes snapped, horses bowled men aside. Davos staggered as a destrier tumbled past, gut slashed. Chaos devoured. Across the field, Gregor Clegane, armored now in patched plates scorched from Melisandre's flames, mounted a fresh warhorse brought across earlier by raft. Blood from yesterday's eye wound seeped through linen pads, but wrath sharpened him into living maul. He rode not with knights, but alone, mace raised. Asha Greyjoy, observing from behind a low stone fence with stolen Westerland shield upon her arm, whistled low. "There's a beast worth a king's ransom." She cocked a throwing axe, gauging distance. Yet sense prevailed. She ducked behind rubble, leaving the mountain to his slaughter. Gregor smashed into Davos's right flank like trebuchet stone. Men flew, ribs cracking. One swing pulped 2 spearmen with same strike. Davos saw the giant coming, hefted a pike shaft scavenged from a fallen man, braced. The point struck Gregor's breastplate askew, glancing off. The momentum knocked Davos staggering. Gregor reared back to crush him. A quarrel thudded into Gregor's greave joint. The mountain snarled, but did not falter. Another bolt punched his helm crest. Crossbows of Stannis' marines had arrived along ridgeline, loosing as fast as they could wind. Gregor wheeled, seeing them, and charged upslope. Davos exhaled, found breath again, rallied survivors. Forward, take their center. He pressed, but impetus had faltered. Tywin's lancers regained line, infantry pushing back. Blood spattered reeds, mixing with black marsh water into foul stew. On the city walls, Stannis watched his small army teeter on knife edge. "Send the reserve," he told Melisandre. She nodded, raised a torch, and turned toward the King's Gate where 2,000 sailors from Driftmark waited, axes gleaming. They poured forth, chanting seafaring dirges, banners of seahorse galloping in wind. Down the slope they charged, crashing into Tywin's flank with wild ferocity. Amid this fresh tumult, a new horn sounded from the south, long and lilting. Tywin whipped his head, searching the haze. Across the ford, emerging onto the reed mats, appeared green and gold banners, roses of House Tyrell. Ser Garland the gallant rode at their vanguard, armor shining even dull under overcast, helm wrought like a rosebud. Behind him churned 5,000 reach spearmen, ranks tight, colors vivid. Tarly huntsmen, Fossaway red apples, Rowan golden tree. They advanced onto the causeway, prepared to reinforce the lion. For a heartbeat, Tywin tasted triumph. His right hand extended to clasp green petals in iron alliance. But the Tyrell column halted midway. Horns bleated thrice, sharp, abrupt. Garland lifted sword high, then swung it down toward the westerland flank. Reach spears lowered. The green tide turned, slamming into Tywin's left, not right. Tyrell had chosen his own moment to enter the game, and he had chosen to bleed lions, not stags. Confusion shattered cohesion. Westerland crossbows on causeway reeled, shields up in disbelief. Tyrell riders hewed them down, trampling men into river. Behind Garland marched Lady Olenna's own men, banner of golden purse on green, and between their ranks strode soldiers wearing half-suns set in red. Dorne, the lion's jaw clenched. No, red hand of Maidenpool. The Valerian crest ironically turned. Tywin cursed. Treacherous flowers. He signaled immediate withdrawal upstream, abandon causeway, fall back to high ground. Ser Kevin attempted to rally rearguards, but Tyrell's cavalry surged, severing escape lanes. Across the field, Davos saw fresh allies descending and felt a surge of relief laced with suspicion. The stag banners reformed, pressing forward once more. But the battle's pivot balanced precariously. From deeper south, trumpet calls answered Tywin's despair. Old shield horns of House Hightower. 6,000 Old Town spearmen advanced along the coastal road, banners of pale lighthouse on gray, guided by Lord Leighton's son Baelor Brightsmile. They marched not against Tywin nor Stannis, but perpendicular. Angling for the battered northern bridge remains where charred stones formed crude stepping path now exposed above low tide. If they seized it, they cut Stannis off from the city gates, trapping his host outside walls. Stannis watched the new threat, calculating distances. Dragon Gate garrison, out and smash them, he ordered. Lord Estermont galloped to comply, leading 2 cohorts of Crownlanders tired but eager. Siege horns brayed across city. The Blackwater once more became an anvil upon which hammer strokes fell faster than hearts could count. In Flea Bottom, word spread. Reach armies slaughter lions. Lions burn marsh. Dornish rumored at Kingswood. City to fall by dusk. Panic erupted. Bakers refused copper pennies, demanding silver for crusts. Butcher boys bartered rats for bits of linen to bandage mothers' coughs. Riots simmered near Street of Flower. gold and black guards tried to quell, but stones rained. Sandor Clegane ducked into the chaos, hauling screaming girl from beneath hooves of a spooked mule. He cursed her, but carried her to the Sept steps, where Septa Elise tended wounded. Sansa Stark bent beside a cot, brought south by Littlefinger, but now orphaned from his schemes as the battle's cape shifted. She gasped at Hound's appearance. He snorted, wiped soot from his brow, and stalked away, yet her whispered thank you lingered in his ears, gnawing beneath scars. Inside the September of Baelor's makeshift infirmary, Tommen paced, small hands clasped behind back as Davos's older son Dale, found alive among Blackwater corpses by miracle, told him of knights who never yielded. Tommen looked toward bright-colored glass panels, cracked but gleaming in shafts of sunlight, and whispered a vow to be brave as any knight. Melisandre strode into the sept, ruby glowing even in day. Around her, small folk flinched, recalling rumors she could drink souls. Tommen approached, trembling yet resolute. "My lady," he said, "will the fire hurt the people?" She knelt, red fabric pooling like blood. "Fire burns those who walk in shadow. Stand in light, and pain becomes deliverance." Tommen frowned, but nodded. Behind them, Septon Mossider watched warily. Faith and flames seldom mixed. Outside the walls, afternoon suns speared between clouds, lighting the melee into tableaus of gristle and heroism. Reach cavalry pressed Tywin's lines, yet the lion's discipline held. Marbrand regrouped crossbows behind Pavis shields, peppering Garland's knights. Gregor Clegane, bleeding behind Islitz, rejoined battle, smashing through Rowan infantry. The mountains mace-crushed skulls like ripened gourds, forcing Tyrell men to give ground. Garland saw him, spurred to engage. They met in thunderous clang. Garland's long sword danced quicksilver, severing a leather strap, but Gregor's return swing nearly caved Garland's pauldron. The Knight of Highgarden reeled, but his squire thrust a spear into Gregor's horse, toppling beast and rider. Before mountain could rise, Garland hammered helm with pommel repeatedly, sparks flying. Gregor's gauntlet closed on Garland's ankle, yanking him down. They rolled, armor scraping, each strike landed like forge hammers. Dust cloaked them. Men ringed in awe. At last Garland's blade slipped beneath gorget, biting flesh. A roar of pain echoed, yet the mountain's mailed fist smashed Garland's visor, denting brow. Blood flowed from both. Neither yielded. War swallowed their duel. Davos realized Tywin's center still commanded crossbows punishing his left. He sought vantage, saw the Scorpion line unattended after a bursting charge, and rallied sailors. They charged, capturing 3 Scorpions, swinging them to face Westerland rear. Bolts as thick as oars slammed into red and gold ranks, sowing fresh chaos. Marbrand turned to recover, but now Reach infantry surged again, pinning him. Lord Leighton's Old Town host reached the broken bridge remains. Estermont met them midspan. Fighting on charred stones slick with algae proved deadly. Men slipped, fell into water, were speared by waiting archers on either bank. Yet weight of numbers favored Old Town. They secured a foothold on northern shore, building shield wall. Stannis ordered a firepot bombard. Barrels of pitch hurled by mangonels stationed atop the Red Keep. The first landed among Old Town spearmen, sloshing liquid fire. Men burned, screaming. The second missed, smashing into Estermont's flank, igniting both friend and foe. Fate drew no lines. Amid smoke and screams, Tywin spied an opening. Reach lines had overextended, their flank exposed to river curve. He signaled trumpet, Boar's Rush, an old tactic Rob Rivers once described. Brax's cavalry reserve thundered from behind marsh shrubs, slamming into Tyrell flank. Apple banners wavered. Lord Fossaway fell from saddle. Tyrell foot threatened to rout. Only Garland's duel held men's mettle. But the knights still fought mountain, both near collapse. Farther east, Asha Greyjoy saw lines fray, and grin widened. She signaled her reavers hidden along riverbank. "We take the Golden Lion's tail," she laughed. Longboats beached, Ironborn leapt, charging into the melee with axes, eager for plunder more than banners. They struck Tyrell and Westerland both, carving amid confusion. In the Red Keep, Tyrion Lannister, bandaged and leaning on padded cane, hobbled onto a balcony that overlooked smoke-choked fields. Podrick steadying him, he muttered, "Looks like a smith's apprentice trying to forge 3 blades with 1 hammer." He turned to Varys, who watched beside him. "How does this end?" Varys's expression was unreadable, with the boldest forging tongs sizzling, or the hammer breaking. He inclined his head toward Tyrion's own kin. "Your father faces a 3-headed beast, and he wields but iron for 1 head." Tyrion sighed. "Perhaps time to send the raven you urged." He raised quill to parchment. Words spilled, laced with plea and threat in equal measure. "To my lord father, hold your assault. The city starves, plague soon. Retreat, and we may bargain Tommen's coronation under your guardianship. Resist, and wildfire will finish what the bay started." He signed with shaking hand. Pod carried scroll away. In Tywin's pavilion, Kevin debated fallback to the Kingswood to regroup. "Our left buckles. The reach is not with us," he said. Tywin, armor spattered with mud, considered. "We hold until dusk. Reinforcements from Crakehall and Payne cannot be far." He eyed a distant plume of smoke rising from city granaries, realized small folk might soon sack the palace themselves. If he withdrew, the city remained under Stannis' banner, and the crown lost. Pride weighed heavy. "We hold," he repeated. At twilight, clouds finally ripped open, rain drumming onto churned fields, quenching fires, turning soil to soup. The slip crushed arrow fletches, smothered flame, washed blood into sluggish runnels that drained to river. Fighting dwindled to scattered clashes. Horns sounded withdrawal on all sides, each host seeking higher dry ground. Night descended thick as wet wool. 2s and 3s of men wandered in murk, blades tapping shields to identify friend from foe. Many never made it. Some collapsed in mud, exhaustion and wounds claiming them. Davos crawled beneath a tilted wagon, breathing ragged. Flares flickered along both camps as officers counted living. Rain plastered hair to his brow, seeped into burns. Yet he felt measured triumph. Tywin had not breached the gate of the gods, nor Old Town men the broken bridge. The stags still guarded city walls. Stannis convened war council under dripping awning. Lord Valerion reported half his sailors dead or lost. Florent recounted dwindling bread stocks, 1 more fortnight at best. Karen had not returned. Rumor said he lay dead near Marsh Verge. Davos limped in, face gray, saluted. "The lion won ground but lost twice men we did," he said. "Tyrell's turn bought us breath." Stannis' stare bored into the table. "I breath, but do we breathe smoke?" He gestured outside where city fires glowed. "Small folk riot for bread. Send stores from Storm's End's granaries. Have them baked and distributed." Florent protested supply lines. Stannis cut him down with look. "Do it." Melisandre stepped forward. "The hour grows ripe for sacrifice. Blood turns fires aside. A king's blood burns brightest." She eyed Tommen's chambers above. Davos bristled, but the Red Woman turned instead to captured knight. Ser Imry Wild, bastard cousin to Joffrey, seized on day 1. "This one bears king's blood," she murmured. "A spark of dragon still sleeps in veins." Davos shook head vehement. Stannis raised hand, torn between need and revulsion. At last he said, "Not yet." Melisandre's smile did not falter. Patience lined her every word. Elsewhere, in Tywin's camp, healers soaked bandages in wine, cutting away armor fused to burnt flesh. Gregor Clegane slumped in sedans, barely conscious. Maester's probe indicated cracked ribs, punctured lung. Tywin ordered leeches to reduce swelling, yet also whispered to Kevin, "If he dies, blame the witch. Slay her publicly when we breach walls. The realm will cheer." Kevin nodded, though unease clouded him. Each new cruelty fed Stannis' narrative of righteous conquest. Between camps, the Blackwater loomed, swollen by rain and sorrow. Bodies bobbed, armor dragging them as undertow pulled toward narrow sea. Crows pecked unopposed. Lightning forked overhead, illuminating the city silhouette, towers jagged like spear tips. At dawn of the fourth day, horns rang again though few hearts soared. Tywin's spies returned with news. Plague houses inside city fill with flux. Waters sour. Small folk speak of opening gates for mercy. Tywin weighed, nodded. Prepare banners of truce. We will send envoys promising bread and peace. But before envoy readied, smoke rose from his own siege lines. Barrels of grain in supply depot ablaze, Asha's reavers again. Tywin's patience snapped. He canceled truce, ordered full assault at dusk once catapults repositioned. No more half measures. Across field, Stannis addressed weary soldiers. We stand before the last roar. If Tywin breaks thresholds, he will spare no one. Stand firm today, and the realm will remember. He walked line, touching burnt shields, gripping trembling hands. Melisandre trailed, chanting, ruby pulsing strong. Some men found courage in her presence. Others a colder fear, yet fear sharpened swords. Inside the sept, Tommen overheard talk of sacrifice. That night he slipped from his cot, creeping along stone corridors to the throne room. The iron throne loomed in moonlit hush, blades gleaming. He climbed 3 steps, reached out, touched a twisted crow. Sesgard, metal-bit skin, a pearl of blood blossomed. Tommen winced, drew back, and saw his reflection in polished steel. A small boy, alone amid knives. He whispered, "Mother, guide me." Silence answered. Morning came with eerie stillness.
Fogklein sick, muffling horns.
Tywin's siege towers rolled forward, wheels groaning, clad in wet oxhide to douse fire. Scorpions atop ramparts loosed. Bolts peppered towers, but hides held. At the gate of the gods, rams the shape of roaring lions butted oak gates hacked thin by days of axe work. Inside, Stannis' men labored to brace with wagons, doors trembling with each impact. On Visenya's hill, Estermont clashed again with Old Town, neither side yielding. Raines's red lion banners fell thrice, rose a fourth. In Flea Bottom, rioters burst pantry of Flea Bottom Bakers' Guild, dragging loaves through muddy lanes. Gold and black guards responded. Melee spilled into alley. Fires started. The Hound found Sansa cornered by thugs who saw Highborn cloak as ransom. He cleaved to and hauled her to safety in a blacksmith shop, where she wept, then thanked him once more. Thunder of siege towers neared walls. Upon each, ladders unfurled. From Stannis' vantage on battlements, he counted 3 towers at main thrust, 1 at Broken River wall flanking. Too many men to repel everywhere. He signaled reserves. Davos rushed marines to wall walk, tossing pitch. Yet Oxhide shed flames. Ladders slammed. Grappling hooks flew. Westerland swordsmen swarmed parapets, clashing with exhausted defenders. Tywin rode behind line, barking orders, sending fresh cohorts where towers bogged. Marbrand, bandaged, led first wave onto rampart, clashing with Lord Valerion.
Stilrang, Sparks Flee.
Valerion's sword, wave dancer, flashed, cutting Marbrand's helm strap. But a crossbow bolt from behind took the Sea Lord in back through mail. Valerion staggered, fell from wall, landing amid barrels of salt pork. Life left him. Morale wavered among stag men. Stannis climbed wall himself, swinging heavy longsword. He parried a lion knight, backhanded another into moat. Men rallied to king. Melisandre remained below, torch raised, chanting. One ladder erupted in flame. Men upon it shrieked, tumbling in sheets of fire. Another boarded as wildfire pot launched by stray scorpion misfire shattered atop siege tower, green flood swirling. Flesh melted. Tywin's men retreated from burning devilry. At the gate of the gods, the lion ram punched through inner door. Gap yawned 2 feet wide. Archers shot through slit. But Clegane trotted forward, rallying men with hoarse roar. He shouldered ram again. Oak cracked like thunder. Inside, Davos arrived, seeing breach. He grabbed torch, tossed into oil trench dug night before. Flame whooshed up, filling entry with searing wall. Ram team fell back, shields charred. Smoke choked corridors. Tyrion wound his way toward the gate, ignoring Maester's calls. He reached parapet, saw father's crimson cloak below. For first time anger flared bright as pain. He seized a cask of pitch, rolled it over Crenel. It smashed near Tywin's horse, spraying tar. Horse reared, Tywin thrown. Guards swarmed to shield him. As battle raged, a shriek rose from the river wall. Lord Leighton's Old Town men had found Postern Gate unmanned, slipped into Dock District, opening Watergate for reinforcements. Hundreds flooded streets. Riot turned to massacre. Small folk cut down by whichever banner they met. The Hound, bloodied, formed ragged line with gold and black men, shielding sept refugees. Sansa carried buckets for wounded. She met his gaze, nodded grimly, and kept working. Dusk approached when a horn bellowed from eastern hills. The sound of cranes, the Tyrell war horn, but deeper. All eyes turned to see dust plume. Another host, banners of Sunspear on gold, Dornishmen under Prince Quentyn Martell, marching swift. They bypassed fighting lines, aiming for Tywin's camp. The Lion now faced enemies on three sides. Yet the Dornish also despised Stannis for avenging Robert's memory of Elia. No one knew where their alliance fell. Tywin assessed. Surrounded, supplies dwindling, plague risk, night firefights in streets impossible. He signaled horns for parley. Trumpets called cease. Across parapets, defenders sagged, grateful. Tyrell lords paused, curious. Davos leaned to Stannis. If he asks terms, we can end this. Stannis stared down at father of the queen he had executed, at lions battered but unbroken. Melisandre whispered, "The hour has come for the king to wield Lightbringer." She pressed hand to his charred gauntlet. "Accept no compromise short of ashes." Davos countered, voice raw, "Your grace, mercy now wins more than 1,000 swords. Let Tywin march home. Let the small folk eat again." Stannis hesitated, first time in memory. His lips tightened. "I will hear him," he said finally. He signaled horns. A single bridge of planks laid across moat. Tywin rode halfway, helm in crook, face carved from stone. Stannis stepped onto planks, helm under arm, smoke swirling. Rain-drenched men watched silent. Tywin spoke first. "To prolong this is folly. The city starves, the river floats with rot. I propose truce. You crown Tommen, rule as Lord Regent. Houses Lannister and Baratheon united." He offered parchment sealed in red. Stannis' eyes blazed. "You offer me regency of my own throne? The Iron Throne is mine by right, not by your gift. A right many refuse." Tywin's gaze flicked to Tyrell banners. "The realm fractures. Unite under a child all will accept." Stannis glanced toward Tommen's sept refuge, imagining boy enthroned, himself stooped guardian. Justice served or bent? He considered when an orange glow flared behind city towers. A distant roar, wildfire again. Melisandre's doing? Or a stray spark? Flames leapt high beyond the sept, illuminating raven wings swirling. Screams drifted. Tywin raised brow. "Your city burns within." Stannis clenched fists. "Because of your war." He looked at Tywin, saw mirrored exhaustion. "Yield now, bend the knee, withdraw. Your house retains its lands, your son becomes warden of the West. But swear fealty, and deliver Casterly Rock's coffers to feed the realm." Silence stretched. Tywin's jaw flexed. Pride warred with survival. Then horns blared again from Dornish camp. Runners arrived, shouting. Prince Quentyn offers alliance to whichever king frees Elia's children's bones from the tomb and punishes the killers. Stannis had executed Cersei. Gregor yet lived, albeit wounded. Tywin killed Elia's children. Realm knew. The scales tilted. Tywin blinked, comprehension dawning that no path remained except submission or annihilation. His eyes closed. He knelt, one knee upon slick plank. Gasps rose from walls. Tywin bowed head. I, Tywin of House Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock, do swear fealty to King Stannis of House Baratheon, first of his name." Stannis's breath hitched. He stepped forward, laid sword on Tywin's shoulder. "Rise, my lord, Warden of the West." He lifted Tywin's hand, sealing oath. War had broken but not ended. Within hours, horns signaled ceasefire. Reach men withdrew beyond ford to tend wounded. Dorne encamped south, awaiting audience. Old Town men laid arms, citing Tyrell command. Tired gold and black guards opened gates to accept bread from Tyrell wagons already rolling in. Small folk wept as loaves passed hand to hand. In the red keep throne room, candles glowed over shattered marble. Stannis sat the Iron Throne at last, though he wore no crown yet. Tywin stood below dais, flanked by Kevin and wounded Marbrand. Davos and Melisandre to Kingside, tension like taut bowstring. Tommen entered, guided by Osgood Kettleblack. He looked at Tywin, then Stannis. Confusion plain. Stannis spoke. "Tommen Baratheon, you are of my blood. The realm owes you care." He glanced at Melisandre, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "You shall be Ward of Kings landing under Lord Davos, taught honor and truth. One day you may serve on this council." Tywin stiffened but held tongue. Stannis rose. "Justice served demands justice," continued. "House Baratheon is restored, but the realm still bleeds. Tomorrow we sign concords with Tyrell and Martell for grain and peace." His gaze swept hall, lingering on charred tapestries, shell-scarred columns. "I will rebuild not only walls, but order." In that moment, Tyrion limped into chamber, face pale. He clapped cane loudly. "Hear me, your grace." Guards barred path. Stannis motioned them aside. Tyrion bowed. "You have the city, the lion's knee, the flower's corn, the sun's heat. Yet victory becomes tyranny if voice of the people chokes." He gestured outside where riot still simmered though bread doused flame. "Rule with law, not pyres." Stannis considered. He extended hand. "Serve me then, imps sit on council." Surprise flickered. Then Tyrion grinned wry, bowed deeper. That night, lightning finally ceased, leaving sky thick with stars. Davos walked ramparts, listening to distant sobs, laughter, prayers. Asha's longship slipped out harbor, holds heavy with stolen coin. The hound sat on step outside smithy, wine in fist, watching Sansa sing lullaby to orphan toddler. Tywin penned letters to Lannisport, ordering end to hostilities. And within the black cells, Gregor Clegane lay fevered, chains biting flesh, the first time the mountain found bars he could not bend. Melisandre stood on tower balcony, ruby pulsing. In flames of brazier she saw shapes, a crown of red gold rising, a stag wreathed in comet's tail, a throne melting into river of swords. She smiled. Dawn glimmered on horizon, pale rose over serrated rooftops. Fire still danced beneath city in secret vaults, but for now none stirred them. The night was past. The Game of Thrones shifted yet again. 5 days of battle, 3 betrayals, countless dead. Still not an ending, only another turning of the wheel. But on this dawn, for the first time in memory, the bells of King's Landing rang not for mourning nor war, but tentative hope. Their notes drifted across still waters of the Blackwater, where reeds already began to mask the scars of siege, and crows settled upon silent gantries to watch men rebuild what they had so eagerly torn down. Hope was fragile as reed, but reeds survived storms that fell oaks. And so the realm sang softly, unsure, as the sun climbed. Perhaps justice could breathe without choking on smoke. Perhaps a king forged in iron might wield mercy not as weakness, but as blade brighter than any steel. In the hush between peals of the bell, Stannis Baratheon closed his eyes and, for one breath, allowed himself to believe it too.